they sent me the book, which was very nice. And a rather magical thing happened. I was in a rather dull hotel in Toronto, as most hotels are, and I opened the envelope, and out came the book, and out of it fluttered a four-leaf clover. And I thought, oh, that's rather nice. And I put it in the drawer by my bed. No, I put it on the table by my bed. I thought, I'll hang on to that. It's a lucky charm, you see. Well, of course, the maid swept it up the next day, so I've never seen that again. Then I read the book and I loved it. And I talked to my wife about Sam, my 10-year-old, doing it. She said, no, he can't possibly do it. He's a boy. He's 10. He has to be a boy, and he has to go to school, and he can't go and work in films. It'll be appalling. And then I said, well, it actually might be quite fun, because we were going to film it about half an hour from where we live, so he could live at home. He'd be working with me, which I thought would be something he'd like to do. It's a very charming story. It's a classic story, and if we are able to make it into a sort of classic perennial children's family film, it could be a lot of fun.
And so it was decided. We're on.
Is he roped in, Sam?
Driving to work together, Sam and I will have a chance to talk over the scenes we'll do that day.
But there's also doing in the dirty dog, you see, which children absolutely adore. I mean, the greatest secret of making children love a book or a film is to have a real dirty dog, yes. A child particularly plotting to do him in and getting him in the end, and that they absolutely love. And we have in Danny a dirtiest dog you could get.
Things and animals. I don't like children at all, except roasted with a few potatoes, perhaps.
A foul creature. And the child, with the help of the father, do the dirty dog in, and this is very satisfactory for a child.
You idiot, why didn't you watch where you...
Quick thinking.
Afternoon. Teaching your boy to drive, I see. Good idea. Seems like a bright lad. My name's...
Hazel.
Correct. Already famous round here, am I?
Notorious.
The reporter, not knowing what was in store, went to talk to Victor Hazel about his part in the film. But, of course, he didn't have much luck.
Mr. Hazel, about the...
Oh, listen. Them bicycles. Well, when I sold those bicycles, they had all the spokes in them. Somebody must have stolen them. That's why they collapsed. It's nothing to do with me. I'm sorry.
It's about the film, Danny.
I'm sorry. I'm very sorry about the accident. When I sold that car, the brakes were absolutely immaculate. I fixed them myself. Someone must have tampered with them. I'm very sorry. Thank you. Thank you very much.
But...
Well, at least they got a more polite reception from the book's author, Roald Dahl.
It was based on real first-hand experience, because just after the war, in the late 40s, when I lived here in Buckinghamshire, I met a chap called Claude and became great friends with him. He was a butcher's assistant who cut up meat behind the counter in Amersham. And one of his enduring hobbies was poaching, because the woods around here are filled with pheasants. And they are all owned by rich men and put down every year by rich men. And the great game in England is a kind of a game, poaching. It's come from the 16th and 17th centuries when poor men were literally starving and they had to poach. And they did it at the peril of their lives, because there were man traps, and if they were caught, they were hung, and goodness knows. But that's endured, and today, poaching goes on amongst country folk, and it's become a great art. I would be honest if I said that we never caught one single pheasant. We very nearly caught lots. Often there were alarms of keepers creeping after us, and I can remember, I mean, the nearest I ever got to catching one was with the rabbit's snare on the end of a long bamboo, and the sleeping pheasant was up in the thing, and I shone my torch on him, and I went, psst, and he stuck his neck out, which they do when they wake up, and it went into the rabbit's snare, and I thought I had him, and I pulled, and he pulled back again and then flew across the woods with an enormous clatter. They make an awful noise and they squawk when they're frightened and they fly. And every keeper, and then we had to run because every keeper within 500 yards heard this, and they came running too. And it used to run like hell, you know, when you did something silly.
So here are Danny and I about to do something silly. We've spread special raisins to catch the pheasants.
Going rather quickly.
But we've caught the gamekeepers instead.
And, yeah, stopping there. Because you're looking for them, really. But you see the pheasants which are over there and start discussing what are the pheasants eating. What are you doing? All right. If you think you heard voices, they might be looking at you. Stand absolutely still. Could you get in there?
No time to run. We have to hide.
If you can get yourself as comfortable as possible. I know it's nasty down there, but while we get the lens...
Okay, Jimmy.
Yes.
You come in now.
Certainly. Is that? Can his hand go along slightly? To his left. Just move your hand a little bit to the left. If I come in and do that.
All right, let's just stop all vehicle movement on that road now, except for the caravan.
Stand over.
Running.
499, take 2.
And action.
Wait a minute. Yeah. What's that?
Did they see the raisins?
This way, this way.
I loved it, going into the woods in the dead of night. And we knew there were keepers around, and we knew they had shotguns, and they wouldn't hesitate to have a bang at you. I think children love it because the poaching is exciting, and the woods in the dead of night is wonderfully exciting. And funny enough, girls like it just as much as boys, although there's not a little girl in it.
Did you see a light?
What are these mysterious moons hanging in the trees? A madman's fancy dress ball? An invasion from outer space? No. Just a way of lighting the woods at night as if by moonlight.
One oh two, take 2.
Action, Sam.
I've gone poaching and not come back.
Dad?
Danny's come to look for me.
Is that you, Dad? I've got 8, you've got 5. Dad.
Well, even in the middle of the woods on a cold October night, life has to go on. It's Sam's 10th birthday, and so everything stops for the cake.
Oh.
Actually, your dog will get it.
Oh, thanks.
After a while, I said, do you miss it when we'd stopped shooting? Because it's a very exciting time, and you get off school. And he said, yes, I do a bit. And he said, what do you miss? And he said, well, I certainly don't miss Victor Hazel. That's a relief. So we agreed about that. I mean, we didn't need to talk about that anymore.
Take
You tell Esther I've got nothing to say to her.
Not Esther, Mr. Hazel. Not Esther Ransom, Mr. Hazel.
Oh, is that right? Well, I'm just off to pursue my country pursuits, cutting down a few trees, you know. Birds wake you up every morning. While you're here, lads, what about this lovely purchase? I've just managed to get rid of the people who've been living here for 70 years, and it wasn't easy, let me tell you. I'm going to turn it into a burger bar. It's going to be the Rob Roy Burger Bar. I'm going to have fruit machines all the way down the front, a pizza pie takeaway. You'll be able to bring your own sheep along and have them worried by my dogs, or indeed, we'll rent you a Rottweiler and you can worry your own sheep or worry my sheep. £200 a day. It's the kind of thing the German tourists love.
Mr. Hazel, it's not.
And then you've got other distinguished actors. I mean, you've got Lionel Jeffries, who I've known for a long time because he played in Chitty Chitty Bang Bang when I wrote the screenplay.
Annabelle and your Marie and your I've forgotten all your names. You're not going to have makeup this morning, are you? Don't have anything to do. Let this be your last movie.
Why?
This is... They don't pay enough. See you later.
Bye. 3 things I enjoyed most. Making friends. I got quite a lot of attention as well, which I like very much. And being around with lots of people. I especially like working with the school and all the kids. That was fun.
A film set is normally a pretty noisy place, but add 30 or 40 10-year-olds and it turns into pandemonium. Above the din, the cameraman, the electrician and the assistant director try to make sense of what they're doing.
Those two went there. Sammy and his friend went there.
Let's just quiet now. Quiet. Just form your rows up. Can I just ask wardrobe, makeup, hair? Just keep out of the children for 2 minutes while we set the positions. Okay. Right. Stand over, please.
219, take 1.
In my prep school, which was tough and rough in 1925 and 6 and 7, there were 1 or 2 unpleasant masters, as we call the teachers. The one who I really hated most and was most frightened of was actually called Captain Lancaster. And he was a bristly fellow with a ginger moustache. He never smiled or laughed, and all he did was shout. And he could be fierce and terrifying and cruel. He used to single a boy out and try and tear it to pieces in front of lots of other boys. No, he was a horrible man. So my Captain Lancaster in the book is modeled very, very closely on this chap. He seemed to hate all children.
Boys and girls, you've no doubt have noticed a new face here this morning. It's my pleasure to introduce Mr. Lancaster. What? Captain Lancaster.
Even in my old age, and I'm not easily thrilled these days, but I am quite thrilled at the cast of this film, because it is certainly by English standards, it's the most celebrated cast of actors for what is basically a smallish film. To start with, you've got the whole Jeremy Irons family, starting with Grandad Cyril Cusack. Then you've got his son-in-law, Jeremy Irons himself, and you've got his grandson, Sam. I wonder whether there's ever been a feature film made with the grandfather acting with, 3 generations acting together. 2 you've had, but not 3. Takes a bit of doing.
This is not his first acting role. He played with me in The Winter's Tale at Stratford. He played Mamilius, which is the largest of Shakespeare's child roles. And he showed that he could cope with it very easily. He would wander down when he had his call, reading the Beano, and stand in the wings reading the Beano. And when he heard his cue, he'd put it down, he'd go on, he'd do the scene, he'd come off, pick up the Beano and continue.
I find in my grandson, as in my son-in-law, a strong professional sense, so that I think he regards me rather as Dr. Spencer than as his grandfather.
If you're working with a stranger, you have to spend an awful long time trying to be father and son. And of course, what fathers and sons do naturally is they just sort of ignore each other, really. I mean, they take each other for granted because they have that sort of deep relationship, which doesn't have to be spelt out all the time. I've just been to hospital to get my leg in plaster, and Danny's been minding the shop.
Wait.
I am getting wet. So, we fell down our own stairs, did we?
Now, look here, you listen to me.
No, you listen to me. Do you think I don't know what's going on here? Do you think I don't know you're all in this together? What'd you take me for? Warning you, Smith. If you trespass my land again, you're going to get shot.
Who the devil do you think you are? Just because you've got a little bit of money, you think you've got the right to...
Shut up, will you? Did you hear me, Smith?
No, Mr. Hazel, you're on my land. You have 1 minute to get off. Come on, Doctor.
Summons the beggar, sir.
Oxfordshire is beautiful. It has little country lanes, very, very quiet, lovely for walking, lovely for cycling. And Victor Hazel drives cars which are normally about 1.5 times the width of the roads he's trying to drive on. So anybody else who's out for a quiet stroll has a very rough time. Did you ever notice there's never anybody else in his car except for those sort of hired thugs of his? No, they've driven a Land Rover. He wouldn't let them in. He has no friends. He doesn't need a car that size.
Well, it's you again, is it?
Mr. Hazel, it's Danny the film.
Oh, Danny the film. Let me tell you about Danny the film. They told me that it was a tragic, sad story, and the bloke with the funny leg was going to end up in hospital. Him and the child would be separated, and I would get to build concrete all over the countryside and build thousands of yuppie homes. And do you know what happens? Do you know what happens? There's a happy ending. I'll show you what I think of your Danny, the champion of the world, matey boy. See that? See that? You can keep it. And I'll tell you something else. You're trespassing. You can get off my land this minute. Mr. Hazel, nothing.
Mr. Allen.
Oh, Mr. Lovey-dovey, nice to children. Mr. Lovey-dovey, nice to children eyes. I don't care what he says, but I'll say this to you. Get off my land!